Today, Meet Me for Coffee. I'm joined by a musician who has shaped the sound of multiple generations of Canadian rock. David Gannon, guitarist, songwriter, producer, and a driving creative force behind 5440's evolution. He's here and he's going to talk about the band's new chapter and upcoming album, Porto. Also, we're going to be diving into the riffs, the stories, the personal moments that inspired this next era. David, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much for having me, George.
Hey man, that's been a long time coming, and I've been looking forward to this for a while. Your guitar work has always added this atmospheric signature to 5440. And what creative headspace were you in while shaping the sound of the newest record?
5440's been a band for 44 years. I'm the new guy. I've just been in the band for 22 years. And when you've been making music as long as we have with the same guys, you're always trying to change your modus operandi. You're trying to change your process and the way you approach a record. The last record we made, West Coast Band, was made during COVID lockdown. So we were essentially sending files back and forth, myself from my studio to Neil's studio on Gabriola Island. The other guys are on other islands. Matt's on Salt Spring and Brad is on Vancouver Island. So we made that entire record without ever being in a room and playing it live together as a band. And the idea with this record was to make a very live sounding riff rock record. So the songs were written and demoed at Neil's studio over on Gabriola the previous summer, and then we rotated all the new songs in and out of the set for the year. So this is something that we used to do a lot, and the bands used to do a lot in the 90s, is it's road test material. And so all the songs on the record were road tested, and then we did intensive pre-production with our producer Warren Livesey in the studio in Vancouver before we went to Porto. And then once we got to Porto and got to the studio, we essentially just set up and recorded the band live off the floor. So those are all band performances, very little Pro Tools trickery.
That's absolutely incredible. When you joined 5440 in the early 2000s, you brought in a new texture, I believe, and like how has your approach to songwriting evolved since then?
Well, I mean, it's experience. We all like to think that we are getting better as musicians, as writers, as producers as we go on. I like to believe I'm getting better. I think I'm better now.
Yes.
Um, it's hard to judge from your own perspective. And a big part of doing this, playing this boy's game in middle age is to tell yourself that you are actually improving. I was likening music to golf recently with a friend. Golf is one of these things that I don't golf, but I can understand the appeal because it's one of these things that you have to put an immense amount of time and practice into to see yourself improve. But you can see yourself improve, and you'll never master it, but you can see improvement in your ability as you put the time in, and music's the same way.
I fully believe the exact same thing. And, sometimes we write these cool riffs and have these amazing musical moments. Is there one on the new album that you're particularly proud of? One you knew was special the moment you played it?
I don't know if there's one in particular. I mean, I'm partial to a few songs. The thing is that the songs were demoed very, very quickly. Um, Neil would show us the song, and then we sort of had a minute with it, and within a couple of passes, we were recording the demo. Very, very fresh, sort of first thought wins. And a lot of those parts and solos um, remained in the song throughout the process of uh, of playing them live, and then the pre-production, and then going into to play them in the studio. I think the thing that I'm most proud of across the entire record is the fact that for the first time in a long, long time, I was recording the solos live off the floor. So usually, you record the solos as an overdub later. A lot of the times, I'm in the studio here by myself and I'm circling it and beating it into submission take after take after take. Do a bit of Pro Tools editing, make sure that it all feels really, really good. and that I've executed all the licks as well as I can. Whereas this record, I recorded the solos with the bed while the drums were going down, while the whole band was playing in a room, and kept those solos. So that is was a bit of a terrifying process for me, but at the same time, there's an energy and abandon to the solos that I'm really proud of on this record.
Is it really important to be able to create a solo that you can replicate live, or you just kind of, do your own thing, like whatever comes to you in a live performance?
Well, on records, I tend to improvise until I've come up with something that I really love, and then that's the solo. And then live after that, I'm essentially trying to execute it. So many of the solos that that are in 5440's catalog from before I was in the band were played by Phil, who was an incredible live guitarist and incredible lead guitarist, and somebody that I can't really emulate his style um, to a T. He had a very soulful, raw, loose feel about his soloing. And so a lot of times with the solos that I'm playing with 5440 and the only older material, I've made it my own, appropriated some of the licks, maybe the beginning, maybe the end, and then made it my own in the middle. And that was by the direction of Neil. He definitely said when I came in, make these solos your own. And there's still solos in the live set which are improvised, which is something I still really like to do. Is not have maybe I have a shape, but I won't have it all written. And I'm not just up there executing. I've got to be flying by the seat of my pants and take risks. And when you have solos like that, a lot of the times you feel like you didn't kill it. Like maybe once a year I might come off stage and I'm like, oh, I really killed that solo.
Yeah.
I wish somebody recorded that because I'd learn that and play it like that every single time. And it's actually good that they sort of float out into the ether, never to come back. I think there's quite sort of something quite charming and old school about that.
Well, was there ever like a guiding philosophy for like the way this new record should sound?
Every record has a guiding philosophy, and a lot of the times actually it's instigated by Brad, who's the founding member of the band besides Neil, and the namer of the band, as Neil likes to point out. Um, he often will make the broad strokes of what this record's going to be. In the case of this record, I had said very early on that I desired to make a riff rock record, like a fun rock record. And I also really wanted to go back to Warren Livesey, who produced the record and had produced the first record I made with 5440, Yes to Everything. That was 7 records ago for me, um, in 2005. And he's a producer that I'd worked with a lot before I worked with 5440, before I was in 5440 as well. And I really felt that he'd gotten some great work out of me in my younger years, and I wanted to go back to him. So in that case, I think I maybe instigated the direction and the personnel a little bit, but it was very much Neil's idea to do a destination record. I think his exact words were, I'm turning 65 this spring, and my present to myself is I want to be somewhere interesting making a record. And he did an incredible amount of research. He called 30 or 40 studios, emailed 30 or 40 studios across the world, inquiring about availability and rates and equipment lists. And he found this studio called Arta Recorders in Porto that suited our needs perfectly.
And what was the dynamic like, the environment, being in a different country to record a new record?
The thing that amazed me the most about it was how much we got done. You're when you don't have the responsibilities of home. Well, I got to get going now. I got to drive somebody to ballet. Um, or even just getting home and the having your family there and the responsibilities of the family. When you go over to the other side of the planet to make a record, your only focus every day, all day is the record. And from the moment we get up, have a little bit of breakfast, and then we walk to the studio. It's about a 45-minute walk through town, which was a beautiful walk that we did every day. And and then you're ready to go. And you work a hard 8 hours, The funny thing about the studio was it was very reasonable, but they insisted on an 8-hour day, which is a short recording day. So every night we knocked off around 6 or 7 and went out for dinner and drinks and uh, and sort of took in the dining experience of Portugal. But back to my original point, I just was amazed by how much we were able to get done in 2 weeks of recording. I mean, we got all the drums, all the bass, all the guitars, all the guitar solos, and all the lead vocals in essentially 12 days of recording. And I can't remember moving that fast on a record um, since the early 90s.
The creative dynamic is a very important thing. I mean, obviously, you're creating a record in a different country. You're able to go for a nice walk after, back to where we were saying, 45 minutes, or stop and have dinner and a few drinks and stuff like that. And be able to like talk it out with your bandmates. Maybe you want to make a song to go a different way, or you guys are able to hash it out. What's the creative dynamic like in 2025 for you in 5440 to when you first joined?
I actually don't think it's that much. It's not that different. I mean, Neil is the straw that stirs the drink, as Brad Merritt likes to say. And he's the songwriter, and he comes up with the germs of the songs and all the words. And we work very quickly in develop working the songs up. We don't like to labor over anything too much. Um, Brad and Matt and Neil had worked out their creative dynamic for 22 years before I even showed up. So I just had to fit in and recognize, um, how things worked best amongst the 4 or 5 of us in order to get it done and be able to come up with something that we could stand behind. Um, as I said, we're always trying to change our process, whether it be working with different producers, going to a different country, working in different studios, and also our writing and recording processes. Always trying to change up those processes so that we can keep exploring, keep ourselves challenged.
I mean, you stepped into 5440 after coming from the Matthew Good band era, obviously, and you started on this new chapter for you. And with that being said, um, you start to geek out when you remember the past and how things used to be. I'm talking about how the music machine was working back in the early 2000s here in Canada, especially, and probably just around the US, North America too. We had a thing called Much Music, which was absolutely amazing for, discovering new bands or hearing new stuff, late night shows, and then and live to airs and stuff like that. Um, what part of that do you miss?
Yeah, the Canadian music scene was very, very well, not just the scene, but the industry was very healthy in the 90s. I mean, if you think of their business model, right? It's like, okay, you're a you're a 16-year-old kid and you see a video on Much Music and you like, wow, I really like this. I like this song. I want to be able to listen to this song more. So you go to the CD store and you buy 16 songs. You buy the song you want plus another 16 that you didn't want. And the record company charges you for all those songs. I mean, it's the most brilliant business you could put. Now, listen, maybe all those 16 songs are great. Maybe you love every single one of them, or maybe you love half of them, or maybe you love a couple of them. But the point of the matter is you only wanted one and you got 16. Um, that makes for a healthy industry. They're selling people 16 of something they only want one of, and they're paying for all 16. And that industry, a healthy industry, leads to a healthy scene. And that's why you see so many of these bands, Canadian bands from that era, still being able to go out there and play and fill houses. Um, there's you can't stop progress. And this the streaming phenomenon and what is done to the industry um, comes part and parcel with by most artists' perspectives, it's been extremely negative for the health of the industry and the health of the quote scene unquote. But it comes part and parcel with the things that are good about technology, like anybody can record a record now on their laptop in their bedroom, and maybe it has it has the opportunity. You have the opportunity to make professional sounding records um, far more inexpensively than you could in that era when you had to essentially have to have a major label with a big budget to go in to a very expensive studio where you spend months on at a time making a record that sounds world class. Now you can make a record that sounds world class with much less, and um, and that's a good thing because that's
Yeah, it's a good thing, but being on a big Shiny Tunes record back in the day, where Much Music used to distribute that every year, that
yeah.
was absolutely huge, right? For many bands.
Yeah, if you landed a song, if you were a domestic band and you landed a song on that compilation, it meant that you can get in the van, drive across the country for 5 weeks and back, and come back with money. You'd played enough, you'd played to enough people, enough people were willing to pay your cover charge that you could come back with a bit of money and sustain your life as a musician. And, that was a great gift of that time. I don't know how you would do it now coming up, right? Like that machinery isn't in place anymore. There's 100,000 records coming out every week, and it's just so much easier to get lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, there's multiple waves happening at the same time in this industry right now. It's impacting a lot of people's creativity in a way that it's hard to make a splash because it's so saturated and stuff like that. But
Far more of a niche industry now. You've just got to get out to your people. Uh,
absolutely,
I felt in the 90s, I really felt strongly that the cream did rise to the top because the industry was healthy. So the industry was looking for new artists to develop. They're looking to new artists to sign. So if you lived in Yellowknife and you were doing something truly exceptional, the industry would find you and nurture you. Um, I don't think that's necessarily the case anymore. It's far more difficult to sort of you've got to do it yourself. You've got to build up your fan base yourself. And I don't know, how do you do that? Funny videos on TikTok, I guess.
yeah, I guess so. I mean, sometimes that's how it works, but other times it's just pounding the pavement, right? I mean, there are so many bands that get discovered by just constantly posting and getting that visibility, and eventually maybe it kicks off or someone wants to play your song on, say, Sirius XM or this and that. But I've always wondered, when I speak to bands like 5440, um, what's a forgotten or underrated track you think deserves like more attention, man?
A current one or a 5441 or one from 1986?
uh, a 5441, like just in the whole discography.
Oh, wow. I mean, my experience with 5440 is such a strange one because I was such a fan, right? The guys are 9 years older than me. So when I was in grade 12, the Green Record, their first major label album on Warner, came out. And I was already a fan of the band because I had owned their independent record, Set the Fire, and that had been very much a soundtrack to grade 10 for me. And then the Green Record was very much a soundtrack to grade 12. I mean, um, I'm actually a guy who ended up joining his favorite band from high school. It's like that Mark Wahlberg movie Rockstar, where he joins
Yeah.
he's in a tribute band, I think, but he joins his favorite band.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm 700 or 800 shows into 5440 now, and I still am up there sometimes going, I'm playing Baby Ran up here. Like I'm playing the soundtrack to being 18. Um, And, I'm playing it and I'm singing it with Neil, and it's really, it's really in a lot of ways I have to remind myself that I just got really, really lucky. So to get to your question, I'm very, very partial to the early material, the material of my teens. And I mean, this is, the music of your teen years is imprinted on you. And I really discovered this as I entered middle age. The music of my teens I kind of abandoned in my 20s. And I was really um very opinionated about what I thought was good. And I was very interested in what was current. And I was careering. And when I got into my 30s, I had kids. When you have kids, you no longer control the radio dial. And
Sad but true.
yeah. Um, and then what happened when I got into my 40s was that I rediscovered the music of my teens, and I found that it meant just as much or not more to me at that time. And I found it quite an interesting phenomenon. And I asked my elders in 5440, I mentioned this to my elders in 5440, like I was saying to them, like how much The Cure means to me again all of a sudden. And they said to me, same thing happened to me. Like I rediscovered the music of in my 40s, I rediscovered the music of my teens and fell in love with it all over again. Um, so like whenever we have the opportunity to play anything from the Green record, anything from Fight for Love, anything from Show Me, I get excited because those are those are the records of my teens. Um, I even managed to get them to play Set the Fire at one point, which was, my favorite song from their indie record that predates their major label days. So, I mean, that's obviously leaving out any of the material that I've made with the band over the last 22 years. But I can't uh I can't say enough about how exciting it is for me to play those songs that I absolutely was thrilled by in my youth.
But watching you, respond to my question, it overjoys me because you're happy about it. I can tell you're really into it, and I was thinking about this the other days. Like I've listened to like a lot of music. Everybody's listened to a lot of music, obviously, but you come back later on in life, you listen to those same songs. It's like, what else haven't I heard? Right? You hear that same song, and there's something else in that song that you have not. Maybe there's keyboard in there, but you haven't heard it, right? Uh, it's buried in the mix and how clever things are put together, and it's music is absolutely amazing. The composition of it, the way things are produced today, digitally and layered and mixed, it's incredible. And being a producer yourself, you've probably seen the evolution of how music's created, and how do you keep up with like the way it's going on your side?
Ugh, barely. I mean, I'm sort of the last generation that didn't have computers in the classroom. So it's not natural for me in the same way as say it is for my kids. Um, I've got to use a lifeline on occasion to figure out how to get my Pro Tools working properly. But I think when you use technology, I mean, I use technology in an archaic fashion. Like I use Pro Tools like a tape machine, essentially. Um, I wish I knew a little bit more about how to make sick beats, but I'm happy pressing record and then playing guitar licks into the machine and then having it play it back to me.
And that's the way it's supposed to go, man. I know everybody gets very frustrated trying to make those beats, and it's happened to me. It's happened to a lot of people, and it's great to finally speak with you, Dave. And it's Been a pretty cool interview, man. I really am looking forward to seeing what happens when you guys release this new record coming up in January.
Yeah, thank you. We're very, very proud of it. Like the thing about making records is that, you know, you the experience of making it is very much part of uh the music for you. So when you listen to the music, you remember what the studio you were at, and oftentimes your situation, whatever it might be personally as well. The time, it's a snapshot in time. And this record was just an absolute joy. It's funny, I can't imagine 5440 making another record that isn't a destination record now. It was so fun making this one. And I mentioned this to the guys the other day when we were out on the road, we're having a drink in a hotel lobby bar and congratulating ourselves. And I said I can't imagine us making a record that isn't a destination record. And Neil's like, "Oh yeah, it's like I can't imagine going into one of those Vancouver studios. I'll kill myself." I'm like, "Those Vancouver studios are great. They're
Yeah,
amazing, but been there, done that." Um, so we'll start research very soon for where we're going to go do the next one.
absolutely amazing. You guys got to keep me filled in on that. I think the next one maybe have to go to Australia or something pretty crazy like that.
That'd be fun, or maybe South America.
Hmm.
Yeah, we'll see.
Lots of possibilities. Dave, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to speak with us on this show.
Thank you, George.